Hey, man, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, too. It's a Dukes and Bell without Carl right now. He'll be jumping on the show later. He's doing some personal business. So it's me, Mike Bell. Hi. People call me Mike Bell. They call him Day Day, Damian Lewis, and Oren, the big O down there. He'll be pushing the buttons. Day Day's the brains of the operation. We're working today. We get, football. We got lots to talk about. So we don't let you down, okay? Dukes and Bell, 6:30 we go till today, 2 to 6:30. We're going to talk to Mike Griffith from Dog Nation as we're getting ready for, some would say a redemption story in the Sugar Bowl after last year, a rematch with Ole Miss. We'll get his take on the college football playoffs, and plenty of NFL with Brian McFadden, what he thought about yesterday, the playoff picture, and, of course, some more Falcons talk with him. And real quick, I'll start with Charles Barkley yesterday, guys, saying the NFL is just a bunch of greedy pigs taking over what was the NBA's, I guess you could argue, territory of the Christmas Day games. Even though the Cowboys and the Commanders aren't in the playoffs, they still can put up a better number than anything on the NBA at the same time. Is Barkley right? Is the NFL? I think we know the answer. But what do you guys think? Infringing on the NBA on Christmas Day?
Well, it's not the first time we've heard somebody from the NBA. Remember, I think it was maybe a year or two ago where LeBron James had his post-game comments where he was like, this is still our day. I think the problem for the NBA personally, Mike, in my opinion, is just that the product hasn't been as great as we're used to have seen it in years past, to where Christmas Day matchups, weren't necessarily all that great. That Knicks Cavs matchup yesterday was phenomenal. But to your point, even though the Cowboys and Commanders were both eliminated, that's still, two teams that have very, big fan bases. Cowboys always draw nationally when it comes to televised games. So, the best game of the day in the NBA may have been overshadowed by two teams not even going to the playoffs in the NFL. But, look, it's the NFL, man. Like, it is a little bit of greediness, but at the same time, the numbers speak for themselves. What's Jay-Z's famous line? Women lie, men lie, numbers don't.
Right. Oren, it's the Pac-Man. It gobbles up everything it goes toe-to-toe with, it destroys. But it's our drug. And to today's point, even though these games don't technically matter in the games that have been eliminated, the only one that was really of note was to see if the Lions, could maybe hold on to their playoff hopes. They couldn't. And then also to maybe see Travis Kelce's final game in Arrowhead. That was one aspect of that. And the Broncos locking on to their position in the playoffs. But to me, the NBA has hurt itself. I blame Greg Popovich. I take this all the way back. Was it 10, 15 years now with load management? And the perception has always been they don't find that second gear until after the All-Star break. And that's why they had to come up with a stupid idea of like the in-season tournament, which is a joke. I've got to pay the highest paid athletes in the world extra loot just to do their job to try to jazz up the month of December. So, all that I think is a factor also, but simultaneously, the NFL, and Oren, jump on this, the NFL is our drug. It's the one thing of all the sports we just can't do without.
So to your point, yes, you are right about the NFL being king. I just thought that yesterday maybe the NBA stood a little bit of business when they said that, hey, this is our day, because that Cowboys and Commanders game, for being close, that was two teams who were not in the playoff hunt. That Lions-Vikings football game set professional football back maybe 15, 20 years with just how bad. Like, the Vikings won, and they had a net passing yardage like 3 in that game. So it just wasn't compelling, even though for it being the NFL and people are going to watch it. Basketball seemed to have the more compelling product and the bigger stars out on the court yesterday. And to today's point, too, you start off with that Cavs and that Knicks game that went back and forth. And sort of that basketball mecca of Madison Square Garden. And then you end, maybe not a lot of folks saw that last night, but that Nuggets game last night that went into overtime, and you had Jokic have a 50-point triple-double last night. So it seemed like the stars yesterday in the NBA were more of the stars in the NFL. And then, too, might be just a small thing, but we had the Inside the NBA guys for like 9 hours yesterday. Right. And that's a huge deal, too, considering the fact that of all the pregame shows and talking heads out there that do that for a living, those three are the three that seem to resonate the most in any sort of sporting circle. So I do think the NFL still is king, but to the NBA's point and the Barkley's point yesterday, I feel like they stepped up what they had for a normal sort of, like they stepped to the plate knowing that if we're going to go against the NFL today, we got to make sure that A, our stars are going to be stars, and B, that we have as much quality content as we possibly can to put out there today, just in case there's an alternative. If somebody, doesn't want to watch the end of the Commanders the Commanders Cowboys game, can watch us
Right.
too.
The one thing is, Commanders, Cowboys are always going to move the meter. Whether you like it or not, as America's team, whatever. I mean, they always draw, and that game, became a one possession game for much of it. It was, the Commanders fighting to keep it a one possession game. I went back and forth. I watched the beginning of the Knicks and Cavs. I watched a little bit of Joker last night, going, as you mentioned, for 56, in that effortless, just sort of slow motion thing he does, which is just unbelievable. But I mean. We'll see. The proof, as you said, will be in the numbers. We do know that when they went toe-to-toe Saturday, no big surprise. The JMU-Oregon game got destroyed. The Tulane-Ole Miss game got destroyed by the NFL. It was almost like a 4.5 to 5-1 in the numbers, according to Nielsen. So, and again, I argued the point last year. I said, shame on the NFL, for taking over college. And I had a bunch of guys say, no. The NFL's been doing this going back to the 70s. They play middle December on Saturdays for years.
I remember there used to be the Heisman Trophy presentation used to be like at halftime of an NFL game.
Right.
And that's where, it's college, this college football playoff. They're going to have to revisit that and maybe think about going earlier in the week, because the NFL, as we said, is Pac-Man and gobbles it up. All right, man, we're going to talk plenty about the Falcons. What does this game mean? Monday night will be at Signia, by the way. Special broadcast for Carl. Carl's off. He'll be on the show today. He's just doing some personal stuff here on our show Behind the Curtain on Twitch and YouTube. But we'll be at Signia, 4th floor. Sports bar is called The Nest. Really cool vibe. If you hadn't been there, it's got his own mini version of like the Halo board that you see at Mercedes-Benz. And it's a cool spot to kind of pregame. And then it's the Rams, who've got everything to play for. The Falcons, coaches playing for their jobs. Does it change anything since we learned Monday from Albert Breer? And it's been going on for a while, the relationship that the Falcons guys have with this firm called Sportology and, listening, watching, judging, as we joke around about, consultants looking to see every single game. And I like what I heard, though, Day. So, let's not get caught up in fool's gold of, beating a bad, Cardinals team. Let's take the totality of the season. How did you lose the season? How did you get off script? How did the things, fall off the rails? But you guys feel, do you think that Raheem and his coaching staff, specifically special teams and Zach, can save anything if you beat the Rams on Monday night?
I mean, I think you definitely, that's what you're looking to do, right? In this game is, prove that, whatever decisions need to be made, if you're Raheem Morris, that they are made in your favor. So, I think you definitely have a chance if you're the Falcons and that coaching staff, you definitely have a chance to give Arthur Blank serious reason to, big, serious consideration in retaining you as head coach. Even if you lose this game, if it's competitive, if it ends up being one of those one score loss games that you've had several of this year, did you put up the type of effort that would make Arthur Blank lean towards bringing you back? And honestly, guys, I continue to get a vibe from Ra, even when he spoke with you on Monday, and Mike, you kind of pressed him about, do you think this game, can help, save your job, so to speak. Even how he's responding, you just kind of get the vibe that he feels good about where this team is going, despite the season being what it is. It sounds like, and Oren, you pointed it out in one of the quote tweets we saw from one of the Falcons beat writers last week. He uses a lot of long-term terminology in his conversation, what I'm saying, with his answers. So something leads me to believe that, they are trying to play to show that, look, we can run things back with this unit. Their biggest question is going to be how they run it back at the starting quarterback position.
And that's it. We hear him talking about in conversations, with Kirk Cousins, whether that's just wishful thinking and just trying to project like, hey, I am in control. This is my team. And that's a message to these consultants and Arthur Blank. I don't know. Or he's just lying to himself, or he actually, is Doran's point, maybe he knows something we don't know, as Frank Lopez said in Scarface. Like what? Anyway, we'll see where this one goes Monday night. More on that from Signia.
Let me ask you this, guys, real quick.
Talk to Brian McFadden about it. Talk to Brian McFadden about it today and see if he thinks it's savable. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, does it say anything that the consulting firm is being led by Rick Smith, the former Texas?
Well, that's what I said.
GM,
It's a conflict of interest. This guy,
who, by the way, interviewed for that job when Terry, like, that just seems like that seems like a bit too on the nose, where a guy who wanted this job 4 or 5 years ago is now the one who's in control of, like, hey, this is what's going on, Arthur. So it seems like there might be some, maybe you're pulling the strings if you're Rick Smith a bit in your favor to kind of position yourself that if Terry does get fired and you're the one that leads to Terry getting fired, that you end up with that job next.
That's the thing. I mean, that's where we've gone round and round on this one. I say, as a fan, first off, I don't think you need a consulting firm, but some fans would say, since Rich McKay is believed to still be involved, or the constant, as I brought up, is still Arthur Blank. And again, two things can be true: great humanitarian, great for the city, all the things that he does are altruistic. But when you don't make the playoffs for 8 seasons in a row, you're a joke as an NFL franchise. So you do need to bring somebody else in. But to Oren's point, when you've got a guy that, seems like a bit of a conflict of interest, you got a guy who might have an interest in this job, who's telling you how this job should be done. I still think it's good, though, if they're looking at the totality of the season, because this team has enough talent. It's got more talent than the team that's going to win the division in Carolina. And I'll die on that hill. Day, we talked about, the great young defensive pieces, certainly what you've got in the skill position. Ironically, Penix Jr. was Jack Robinson the right guy to work with him? See, that's part of Raheem's job. Why did you hire the guys you hired? Those are questions I think they've got to ask as well. But getting back to the initial question, I mean, if you could hang with the Rams, what does it mean? I don't think it means anything, because it's too little, too late. Does it matter to you?
I mean, again, I said it a little earlier. I think it does still show something. Look, I watched, watching that Lions-Vikings game last night, right? And now, granted, the Vikings kind of have had a little more positive seasons. They've just kind of been dealing with their quarterback issues and whatnot. But I look at that game last night and I just say to myself, like, okay, it's not too, late for the Rams for the Falcons to play spoilers, obviously, and maybe that's something that can happen. But yeah, I do think that you want to see things somewhat still come together for this team at the end of the season, to have some kind of positive momentum when you're going into next year, especially because here's the thing: if they're bringing everybody back, right, then you at least want to see the end of this season have way more positives than negatives. Because if they lose this game and then they turn around and lose to the Saints, but then they run it back, everybody's going to lose their ish behind that, right? Mm-hmm. But if they win out, somehow find a way to win out, what would that be? A 4-game win streak that at least gives you a little something to say, okay, the season overall didn't go the way we wanted to, but at least they finished in a manner that I can have a little bit of confidence in them bringing this thing back.
And I say, none of that means anything to me if I'm consulting or if I'm Arthur Blank. You blew it. You had a chance. You lost 5 games in a row this year. That happened, okay? When you lose 5 games in a row, you lost the script. We all know about the Penix Jr. thing. Did you hire the right coaches? All of this, I still think you tie it off or rip the Band-Aid off, whatever metaphor, Oren, you want to use. We'll get into that today with Brian McFadden, get Carl's takes on it as well. And, of course, Monday, as we said, doing the show live at Signia. Also, guys, the Hawks. Now, a coach we started talking about on Christmas Eve, what's going on with Quinn Snyder? All right, this team's got to start playing some defense. I want to get your opinions on that. Orange, start with Big O. Everybody who's a Trey hater is going, look at this. The scores. We're the worst team defensively when Trey's on the floor. And, boy, you're going to trigger some Trey fans out there. But those are facts. Quinn Snyder's got to dial this thing in, man. When's Quinn Snyder going to get some heat in this town?
Pretty soon, if this thing doesn't turn around, because now when you have Trey back, and like you said to your point about the record without him versus the record with him, that's going to start to ring larger and larger. And plus, if the Hawks can't start winning games at home, if you're losing games at home and you start losing that fan support at home, which you kind of garnered, if the offseason kind of built up with the offseason acquisitions that you made and getting that first round pick from New Orleans, like there was a lot of goodwill and a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm from this fan base before the season started. So at some point or another, the Hawks got to figure out what they are. Either they got to be like an offensive team that's got to outscore everybody every night, and they're going to have to completely buy into that, or somehow, some way, you have to find a way to dial back a little bit and win it on defense. But there's a team right now that I think wants to be more defensive and can't be defensive right now, but also trying to figure out they can't win games trying to do both. So it's weird for me right now. The Hawks are sort of in that limbo spot where they still don't quite understand or know what they are in order to go out there and best utilize what they have on the court.
Right. And Day, I saw the Knicks. You mentioned the Knicks and Cleveland. I'm watching that game, and I'm saying those teams just look better than us. I think we've got a lineup when Trey's on the floor that should be able to match up with anybody. Maybe a little help in the front court at the trade deadline aside, but we've added the defensive pieces. To me, this is about coaching. And I hope there's a sense of urgency with Wrestler, because I said to Day the other day, or Mike Malone is out there, the former Nuggets coach.
You got some names,
that's a shock to the system. Maybe that's what this team needs. I don't know what Quinn does. He doesn't answer a lot of questions with the media. I don't know. Do you think they're tuning out Quinn?
I don't know if it's a matter of them tuning out. I mean, I think, they anticipated they definitely didn't anticipate the loss of Trae Young for the time that they had him. But then I don't know how much they really knew Porzingis was dealing with his POTS issue. And I don't know if that's, playing having an impact on what Quinn's mindset was of how he was going to be utilizing guys, going into the season. And then again, boom, you lose Trae early on. And then Porzingis, he starts dealing, is he missing more time than was anticipated? I'm pretty sure they knew there was going to have to be some type of load management with him. But I don't know. In my opinion, it feels like that load management is a little bit more than what they probably expected it to be.
Oren, I just think real quick, and guys, this is our pre-show. We call it Behind the Curtain. More on this also in Guy Talk. Did Netflix do a decent job with their NFL coverage? We'll talk about that too. We're talking about the Hawks right now. Porzingis, I think this is, look, we're not going to make light of it because, as I said on the show on Christmas Eve, a lot of guys my age and younger dealing with heart issues, and you got to be careful with that. Don't make light of it. But the bill of goods we were sold is not even close. This is what kept them out of some of those games against the Knicks last year for the Celtics. Now, to me, the only thing desirable about Porzingis is his value in a trade with that expiring contract. Another thing I want to get into today is Reece Shea. A lot of folks feel that Reece Shea is a bit of a disappointment. And I know some guys are saying it takes 4 years, but this is the number one pick. So we'll get into that. We'll dive into the Hawks because a lot of folks feel maybe, how about this, till the trade deadline or the All-Star break to see Snyder get this thing together with Trae on the floor and the defensive situation isn't a disaster that it's been. Because to me, that's it. I mean, we didn't put all these pieces together. Ansei Saleh didn't make all these great moves and get lauded for it to have it look this bad. And right now, we're still in the play-in game. That's all coming up. That's a lot of stuff today on Dukes and Bell. Oren will have shenanigans for you with me in Guy Talk. That'll be about 4:40. We'll get into the dog report with our man Mike Griffith as well. Right, Daddy? Covered all the bases?
Yeah.
All right, that's it.
Sir.
All right, man. We'll be caffeinated and ready to rock 2 to 6:30 tonight before the Hawks pregame. This is Behind the Curtain, man. Have a great day.